The weight of the mercy rule. There is a specific kind of silence that falls over a Little League dugout when you are losing by 10 runs. It's not the angry silence of a blown call. It's not the tense silence of a close game. It's the heavy, suffocating silence of total defeat. If you've spent any time around youth baseball, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The errors have piled up. The pitching has fallen apart. The opposing team is hitting line drives into the gaps, and your kids are just waiting for it to be over. And looming over the entire field is the rule every parent and coach knows by heart. Rule 410E. The mercy rule. If a team is down by 10 runs after 4 innings, the game is called. It's designed to prevent embarrassment, to save arms, to let everyone go home. It was a Tuesday night in late May. The air was thick with humidity and the smell of concession stand hot dogs. We were playing the Tigers, the best team in the league, and they were dismantling us. It was 10-0 entering the bottom of the 5th. We needed 1 run just to keep the game alive, just to avoid the mercy rule. I was sitting in the bleachers watching my son, Leo, kick the dirt near the on-deck circle. I was already thinking about what I was going to say to him in the car ride home, how to soften the blow, how to explain that sometimes you just get beat. But I forgot the most beautiful thing about the game of baseball. There is no clock. You can't take a knee. You can't run out the time. You have to throw the ball over the plate, and you have to get the final out. Chapter 1. The Anatomy of a Blowout. To understand what happened in the 6th inning, you have to understand how we got there. A 10-0 blowout in Little League rarely happens because of one massive inning. It's usually a slow bleed. A walk here, a booted ground ball there, a bloop single that turns into a triple because the outfielder threw to the wrong base. By the 3rd inning, the psychology of the team had completely shifted. They weren't playing to win anymore. They were playing not to mess up. And in baseball, when you play not to mess up, you usually mess up. Our coach, a great guy named Mike, was doing everything he could. Hey, lots of game left, boys. Let's get one back here. Chip away. But 11-year-olds are smart. They can do the math. They knew the Tigers' pitcher was throwing heat. They knew we hadn't had a runner past second base all night. In the top of the 5th, the Tigers scored 3 more runs to make it 10-0. That's when the parents started packing up. You could hear the subtle sound of aluminum lawn chairs folding, the rustle of blankets being stuffed into tote bags, the collective sigh of adults who had to work the next morning and were secretly relieved the game was ending early. I looked at Leo. He was batting 5th that inning. If the first 3 guys went down, he wouldn't even get to hit. His shoulders were slumped. The joy of the game had been completely drained out of him. And as a father, that's the hardest part to watch. Not the losing, but the surrender. Chapter 2. The Spark. Bottom of the 5th. 10-0. 3 outs away from the mercy rule. Our leadoff hitter was a kid named Tommy. Tommy was the smallest kid on the team, but he had the biggest heart. He stepped into the box, choked up on his bat, and fouled off 3 straight pitches. On the 4th pitch, he hit a weak, chopping ground ball to the shortstop. It wasn't hit hard. It wasn't pretty. But Tommy ran down the line like a dog was chasing him. Safe. An infield single. It meant nothing in the grand scheme of a 10-0 game, but it meant the game wasn't over yet. The next batter walked. Suddenly, we had runners on first and second. The Tigers' pitcher, who had been cruising all night, suddenly looked human. He threw a wild pitch, advancing the runners. Then, our three-hole hitter hit a sacrifice fly to deep center. Tommy tagged up and scored. 10-1. The mercy rule was off the table. We were going to play the 6th inning. The energy in the dugout shifted instantly. It was like someone had flipped a switch. They weren't playing to win the game. They were just playing to survive another inning. But in doing so, they remembered how to fight. Leo came up to bat and ripped a double down the left field line, scoring another run. 10-2. We scored 3 runs in the 5th. It was 10-3 heading into the final frame. The parents who had folded their chairs quietly unfolded them and sat back down. Chapter 3, the 6th inning. Top of the 6th, we held them scoreless. Our pitcher, who had been struggling, suddenly found his curveball. He struck out the side. Bottom of the 6th. 10-3. We needed 7 runs to tie, 8 to win. In Little League, 7 runs is a mountain, but momentum is a powerful, unpredictable force. The first batter walked. The second batter hit a single. The third batter was hit by a pitch. Bases loaded, nobody out. The Tigers changed pitchers. The new kid came in throwing hard, but he couldn't find the zone. He walked in a run. 10-4. Then came a bases-clearing double. 10-7. The dugout was absolute bedlam. The kids were screaming, banging their helmets against the fence. The parents were on their feet, yelling until their throats were raw. It was 10-8 when Leo stepped to the plate. 2 outs, runner on second. I wasn't thinking about the score anymore. I was just watching my son. 30 minutes ago, he was defeated, waiting for the mercy rule to put him out of his misery. Now, he was standing in the box, gripping his bat, completely consumed by the fight. The pitch came in, fastball, high and inside. He turned on it, a towering shot to deep left center. The center fielder went back, back, back. It one-hopped the fence. The runner from second scored. Leo rounded first and slid head first into second base. 10-9. He popped up from the dirt, threw both arms in the air, and let out a scream that I will remember for the rest of my life. It wasn't just joy, it was defiance. We didn't win that game. The next batter struck out, and we lost 10-9. But as the boys lined up to shake hands, they weren't hanging their heads. They were walking tall. They had looked the mercy rule in the eye and said, "Not today."
Coach Whiz here to close out this week's story. You know, they call it the mercy rule, and I understand why it exists. Nobody wants to see kids get humiliated 25-0. But as a coach, I've always had a complicated relationship with it. Because baseball, more than any other sport, is designed to teach you how to handle failure. When you call a game early, you spare them the embarrassment, sure, but you also rob them of the chance to figure it out. You rob them of the chance to get that one scrappy infield single that changes the energy in the dugout. That team didn't win the game on the scoreboard, but they won something much more important. They learned that no matter how bad it gets, no matter how many errors you make, you always have the power to fight back. You always have the power to make the other team earn the final out. And as a father, as a coach, that's the lesson you want them taking home. Not the score, the fight. On the car ride home that night, I didn't have to give the speech I had prepared in the 5th inning. Leo was exhausted, covered in dirt, and smiling from ear to ear. "Dad," he said, looking out the window, Did you see that double? I saw it, buddy, I told him. I saw the whole thing. We lost the game, but we beat the mercy rule. And sometimes that's exactly the victory you need. Thank you for watching. If you've ever witnessed a Little League comeback that defied the odds, tell us about it in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. We feature new stories every week celebrating the bond between fathers, children, and the greatest game on earth. See you next time.